Okay, attention everyone, real quick so we don't waste time here. So Mr. Alex here is a computer programmer, and he knows how to write code. And what I would like for him to do is just write like a fairly simple line of code up here that would make a computer do something for us. I mean, it doesn't have to make the screen a certain color, whatever. Just something that's okay. Then I have some questions for you about it. He's doing this on the spot, by the way, so a little latitude would be. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right. So, question for you guys: does anybody know what this will do? You know what it'll do, Isaac?
Print. It will print say hello.
Well, what's it going to make a computer do?
What it says.
Anybody?
Isn't it gonna write hello on the screen?
Yep, it'll write hello, and then, so when you call this is called a function, so when you call it, you're going to give it what's called a variable, and it'll take this variable and it'll print hello, and then whatever you pass in. So.
Now, I noticed something you did there, that was very interesting. Oops, I forgot to print. What would happen if I did that?
Would not work.
What would happen if, so this will, wait, let me put that back so we have it. So what is this going to do again?
So this is a function, so you would in your code, you could use this line, say hello, and then you would pass in whatever you wanted it to print out. So you could say hello Alex, or hello Mark, or hello whatever, and then it would literally write out to the screen hello, and then whatever you passed in. So you could add a lot more text here, you could add multiple things that you wanted to print, but it would format that string of text with whatever variable you pass into this function. So
Clear as mud?
I thought the two parentheses at the end of it were like for the computer to know that's the end of it.
Right. So if I took that off there, the computer wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, it would throw an error.
It would give you an error. Okay. So let's say that not only I did that, but I did that.
Yeah, that wouldn't work at all.
What if let's put the whole thing back up there, right? So what did it say? Say hello. Say hello. Right. And then okay, so now it's normal again. What if we were able to take all the letters from this some very, very simple line of code and throw them in my coffee cup, mix them up, and then throw them back on the board? Mr. Schultz, how long do you think it would take for it to come up in this sequence again? Probably.
It would take a long time.
Take a long time, right?
A powerful computer in a long time.
So it's not like, flip a coin, it's a 50-50 chance. This is a very simple line of code that if we threw it in my coffee cup and then chucked it up on the board and it randomly, how many times would we have to throw it up there before it would come up to? Now, let me ask you this question. If you guys came in here and you saw this on the board, would you just assume that it randomly appeared here? What would you assume about this?
I'd assume it would just be like some sort of password code or something.
Right, but what would you assume about how it got here? How did it get here, Isaac?
Someone wrote it there.
Somebody wrote it there, right? You see a piece of information like this, especially if you if Kim was here and she saw this, you would go, oh, that's a line of code. That's information. She wouldn't just assume that her, one of y'all's little sisters came in here and wrote this, because maybe to John, this is complete gibberish, right? Maybe he would think that, some little kid came in here and wrote this. But if Kim came in here, she would say, oh, not only did somebody write this, but somebody who knows code wrote this. And then she would start to think, okay, no, wait a minute. I know how to write computer code. Who else that goes to this church can write computer code? Oh, Mr. Schultz can. Who else can? Who is? Oh, Mr. Lentz.
Mr. Wayne.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you would start to, it wouldn't just be that somebody wrote it, somebody specific had to write it. Okay. And the chances of it just appearing out of random nothingness is minimal. Now you can stick around, but I think you've served my purpose. Thanks, Mr. Schultz. So let's go back to AC1 here again, because I've been binging on this guy, Stephen C. Meyer. You heard of this guy from the Discovery Institute? Stephen C. Meyer? You got to check this guy. He's pretty good today. Because this is one of his, and it's kind of this Aristotelian and Thomistic. It's kind of you guys remember the coffee cup thing, right? We would not use so. We get these. I should have brought something like that. We get DNA sequences in biological life forms where you have these 4 letters in a combination of code that tells the cell what to do and what to be, right? This might be a little bit controversial, but DNA will arrange itself such to the place where Amelia will turn out to be a purse stealer. That's not. There's a philosophy, but it will determine what color your hair is or your eyes, right? So it doesn't even if your DNA determined your behaviors, you can still resist that, right? So even if you were born wanting to steal purses, right? See, I'm born wanting to steal classic Corvettes, but I'm going to resist that because I don't want to go to jail. Not only that, but the people who worked hard on building the Corvette, I don't want to steal it from them. That's what I'm trying to love my neighbor. Anyway, the point being, these DNA sequences are like computer code, is what Meyer says. And we would never look at something like this and just assume that it appeared randomly. We would always look at information and assume what? What is it, Isaac? What would we assume about this? How did this get here? What did you say a minute ago? How did this get here? Someone wrote it up there. Right? Spell it right? I don't know. Can't spell intelligence right. So terrible. So dependent. You would assume that this came from an intelligence, and like we said before, it wouldn't just be, it couldn't be some random intelligence, right? It would have to be, what did we say about this? If Kim came in here, she saw this, she said, oh, that's computer code. I know a few people in the church that do computer code. It couldn't just be anybody. She wouldn't have jumped to the conclusion that Brigida wrote this up here, unless you know computer code. But you don't, do you? So, the point being that somebody very specific wrote this. An intelligence with the capabilities of producing something like this, because Mr. Schultz didn't just come in here and say, oh, I all of a sudden know. He had to be educated on this and that sort of thing. So this starts to get very specific. So could space aliens have done it?
No, unless they know it. Oh, possibly.
It's possible, right? So let's think about this. Did all life originate from aliens?
No.
We could have. I mean, in theory, right? There could have been a space. This is what Richard Dawkins says. There's actually a documentary I want to show you guys. We're going to have a thing over at the Mazes next month after, and there's this documentary called Expelled. It's actually quite good, but I got to get your parents because parts of it's a little bit intense. But Richard Dawkins, the famous atheist biologist, said that it's possible that aliens could have. He really made a fool of himself on this show. He really did, because he claims no intelligence. He claims that there's no intelligence that designed human beings. Yeah. Now, let me go back some real quick, because you guys may be wondering why I'm talking about this, other than the fact I've been thinking about this over the past while. Okay, you guys remember Article 1, AC 1 of God goes, our churches with common consent do teach that the decree of the Council of Nicaea concerning the unity of divine essence and concerning the three persons is true and to be believed without any doubting. That is to say, there is one divine essence which is called and which is God, eternal, eternal, without body, without parts. So it's simple. Infinite power. Omnipotent. Wisdom, right? Is that right? Can't spell these words that have to do with intelligence.
Science?
Goodness, right? Omniscience, that's right. Now I'm gonna have to look it up. All right. I do this too often. Is it right? Yeah, that's right. Okay.
I mean, yeah, it just means knowledge, so.
Yeah.
Omniscience is all.
All right. That's what the Augsburg Confession states. All right, so now, let's go back to this for a second. Never mind this for a second. This is why we're talking about this, so we're going to put this all together. What's the problem with space aliens beginning the planet? What becomes the question then when we start talking about origins, right? Where did life begin? Isaac, what's the problem with space aliens?
Because people, if aliens were proven to be real, then people would start having false religions about them.
I think that's true, but what's the problem? What's the ultimate problem with space aliens? I'll let you go here, Mr. Yes.
If we evolved from space aliens, how come we don't see any crossovers?
Okay, so hang on. Let's go back to this a second. Remember the cup? What's holding up the cup? The table. What's holding up the table? The legs. What's holding up the entire table? The floor. The foundation. The earth. What's holding up the earth? The universe, right? Gravity, the laws of physics. What's upholding the laws of physics? Well, ultimately we get to, it has to be God, the unmoved mover, right? Why does he have to be unmoved? What's that? Right, that's part of the way there. I think that's pretty close. See, that's the problem with aliens. If aliens made us, what's the question? Who made
God.
Right, exactly. Who made God? And that's why he's got to be all of these attributes. Has to be. Just as surely as this has to be somebody like Mr. Schultz who can write code. It can't just be anybody. It's got to be somebody who holds these attributes, because the question is, okay, fine, you say it's space aliens. Who made the space aliens? Okay? Now this, you have a simple way to explain Aquinas' notion of the necessity of God being simple? I can't quite get my mind around that. He has to be simple. Because otherwise then you get into the whole problem with God being complex, and complex things have to come from something. I don't know. I don't completely understand that whole. Maybe I won't get into it since I don't get it. If you can think of a simple way to explain that, I would like to hear it. But this is what Article 1 is talking about here. Essentially, complex things don't come out. Simpler things don't. Complex things must have something that created them. So if God has a body and his parts, etc. If he's not simple, then that's a problem. Then we have to ask the question, who created God? But Aquinas defeats that argument. I'm still trying to get my mind around it. When I get a better idea of how to tell you guys about how that works, I'll let you know. And maybe Mr. Coleman came up with something. Isaac, you have a question? What's your question? Sit up and ask. What's your question?
My question is, what happened if aliens actually were proven to be real?
Well, I think I
If
don't.
aliens knew about it, what would happen?
That's a hypothetical, and I think there's some guys out there that would say that we would have some theological problems because Jesus died. Jesus was a man and died for humans, and then he didn't die for space aliens. And there's a whole, I don't
If they're
know.
not descendants of Adam, why would they need to die for?
Well, because now we live in a fallen universe. So how did they survive the fall? And
Cosmos doesn't necessarily mean the universe.
okay, so now you're getting it. Now you're starting to swing, right? So
This is what Lewis plays with, right? In
Yeah.
strategy.
So, our, what is it called? The thermonuclear apologetics, Jason Lyle guy. Yeah, that's his stance, is that space aliens cannot exist, otherwise it'll unravel our theology. I'm not so sure that's true. So anyway, to answer your question, Isaac, I'm not sure. I think we could figure it out. I think there's been some guys that think about it, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm not sure we'll find space aliens. I think it's just,
I think the aliens, when we actually discovered they were real, I think they would actually want to come and visit us, and maybe they'll even want to know what our planet's like. Maybe they didn't create us.
possibly, maybe they'll just want to crush us like bugs. I don't know.
Do you know how close the nearest habitable planet is? Yeah, it's tens of thousands of light years away. So, you're not gonna have to worry about it.
No, not in your lifetime.
Or-
Okay, so
It's just not gonna happen.
so we can. It can't be space aliens. It could be, but then you have to ask who created the space aliens.
God.
Go
I
ahead.
think, that I think is a good answer for somebody like Hawking or somebody who's not a Christian. I think our first answer should be, because the Bible clearly says that's not what happened.
Right.
We go back to, the Bible is reliable, right? And that's where we get our information about what happened at the beginning, because otherwise there's no way to know except just making stuff up.
Yeah.
And to say, for somebody to say space aliens came and put life on the planet, it obviously just, how somebody like Hawking can say that and act like it's an answer,
Right.
is just, he's delusional.
Well,
Because
and
it's
it's
so obviously just turtles all the way down.
yeah.
You guys know
Well,
what that means, turtles all the way down? Heard that?
what is it called? What is it?
Turtles all the way down. So this is a common thing. So it's from some old story about, it's like a fable. Kid asks, what does the world rest on? Your coffee cup rests on the table rests on the ground rests on what? And what is the world sitting on?
Right.
And this answer that he gets is, it's rests on the back of a turtle.
Yeah.
Well, his question is then, well, what does the turtle stand on?
Right.
Another bigger turtle.
Yeah.
It's turtles all the way down.
Yeah.
It just, unless you get to a thing, again, the unmoved mover, you need it.
Right.
That's what, so if you ever hear that phrase, turtles all the way down, that's what it means. It means that your question just pushes back the question
Okay.
one step. It doesn't actually answer anything.
Yeah. It's what the technical term for that is infinite regress.
Yes.
So it just regresses and then. So, but here's what my atheist friends are trying to explain everything by: nature and material. How could the universe, how could life come about purely through nature and material? Now, what Mr. Pullman is talking about is we go, why would we a priori go with this route? In other words, why would you start here?
This is that nuclear strength apologetics.
Yeah.
What presupposition?
Exactly. And don't let anybody, when you guys go off to college, don't let any biology professor tell you that they don't have this presupposition when they're telling you that everything evolved over millions and millions of years into, purse-stealing sisters, okay? Because they have to start with this presupposition. Because it makes no sense. Again, come back to Mr. Schultz's code. Where else, when we are describing phenomenon that we observe, would we ever say, oh, it just randomly happened? We would never say that about anything else. But yet, when it comes to the origin of the universe, that's what we're going to say? Give me a break. Okay? The reason that, and the only thing that explains that is they're trying to explain everything from a naturalistic, materialistic worldview. And we say, fine, you want to go with that? That's just your shot in the dark. And believe me, there's motives behind this. I mean, the biggest motive is, St. Paul teaches us right in Romans 1. People hate God. That's the main motivation. They hate God and they don't want to obey Him. Simple as that. And so, in order to avoid God, this is where they start. All right. And we say, no. We love God and we trust His Word. Because of our baptisms, because of the gospel, for Christ's sake, right, as the confessions say. Because of that, we start, like Mr. Pullman said, with the information. Now, can we explain it? Yes, we can. We can defend this by saying it can't be something like space aliens. It can't be a multiverse, right? You guys heard of this? So the idea is if you flip a coin, so many times, how many times can you get it to land on its edge? It might happen once in a million times, but if you had 1 million people flipping coins, then you would get it every time, right? Well, again, this is just complete speculation. Same thing as, this code sequence coming into random. You guys remember this idea? Right? Universal probability bound. That if something is so unlikely to happen, like this code coming into being by random chance, that I can't remember the ratio, but if it exceeds that ratio, the opposite has to be true. So the notion that something like human beings come into existence by random chance with the complicated sequences that are required to not only produce DNA, but interworking genetics that create a human being are way beyond this. In fact, suggest that there was an intelligence. And once you open the door for an intelligence, this is over with. Naturalistic materialism is done. Because now, if there's an intelligence that created everything, that's eternal, without body, without parts, omnipotent, omniscient, and is all loving and good, then you have to deal with that guy. You've got no choice. And that's the thing our atheist, naturalist, materialist friends don't want to deal with. They ultimately don't want to deal with that. Now, I understand we're supposed to be in a choir rehearsal this morning, right?
Yes, 9:50.
Yeah. So that's why I did this, because it was going to be shorter. You guys, the rest of you guys can hang out. Please do not cause problems around here. If you're going to hang out in here until after the other Sunday school's let out.